nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit. I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Today we'll go bird watching, tomorrow we'll catch toads. The next day we'll take photographs of bugs along the road. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. That's why I'm a nature nut. Well, I'm a nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit. I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Hi there. Are you getting tired of show after show about creepy crawlies, bugs and frogs and things like that? Well, relax. Today I'm going to bow to public pressure and we're going to spend our time looking for the animals that most people think of when they think of the word wildlife. Big animals, furry animals, mammals, especially grazing mammals. We're going to leave the carnivores out of it for today, but you know what I mean. Things like deer, reindeer, mountain goats, moose, the majestic kudu antelope. Those sorts of things, ungulates. They're called ungulates because it refers to their little toes, the unguals, the unguis of the foot. It's a tough word to remember. I've heard people call them Undaloofs and other people call them Hoof-ed, but you can just call them big grazing animals if you like. Now, as you probably know, the best place to see wild ungulates is definitely in the national parks. There are lots of wild ungulates outside the national parks, but they're a lot more shy because they're used to being disturbed by people, and in some cases there are hunting seasons and that sort of thing. In the national parks, they're used to people. You can see them in broad daylight, and so that's where we're going to go. Before we get there, though, what do you think of the modifications to the Nature Nook? Quite a nice mural we had put in behind, don't you think? Yes. Because robbers on mooseback could escape through muskeg from police on horses, it was once illegal to ride moose in Sweden. This is Elk Island National Park in Alberta, in Canada. Alberta has more species of wild ungulates than any other province or state in North America, so it's a good place to look for things like bison. And those are bison behind me. As you probably know, the bison once roamed across North America in huge herds. They almost became extinct, and now they're doing all right, although, you know, they don't have free range of the continent anymore because of things like fences, but in places like Elk Island there are lots of bison. Bison are the largest land animal in North America. A big one can be more than a ton in weight, which is the size of a small dinosaur, or maybe even a medium-sized dinosaur. Bison are very powerfully constructed ungulates. They have huge heads, which of course are primarily used for grazing, but also among the males for fighting with one another, and sharp horns, powerful neck muscles to hold that huge head, and powerful shoulders. They'll also use the big head to open up feeding craters in the snow to get at the grasses. Extremely powerful animals, and they're so well insulated, not just by their fur, but also by the structure of their body and the fat layer under their skin and all this sort of thing. It's almost impossible for a bison to get cold. In fact, it is virtually impossible for a bison to get cold in the winter here. So it's kind of an interesting animal to encounter. They're not entirely trustworthy. In fact, they're rather bad-tempered, so we'll stay, back here and let them have their little field to themselves. They prefer fields to forests because they like to eat grasses, much the way cattle do. They don't go for the twigs and little shoots and buds that other ungulates like. And there are still lots of sign of bison out on the prairie. They wallow in the dust and sort of muddy, dusty places. You'll see rocks that have been worn smooth with bison tracks around them. So the bison has left its mark upon the landscape as well as upon the culture of this continent. By the way, a lot of people call them buffalo, which is, it's perfectly all right because everybody knows what you're talking about around here when you say buffalo, but Technically, a buffalo is a kind of an animal that lives in Africa and Asia, usually called a water buffalo, but the bison is called a bison because it's also the scientific name. The genus of this animal is bison. Some people want to change that and place it in the same genus as the cow, the genus Bos. I think that's a good idea because when these things are around, they are definitely the boss. The ungulates include deer, sheep, goats, and buffalo, antelope, pigs, horses, rhinoceros, camels, hippos, giraffes, and pronghorns, to name but a few. So this sand should be pretty good for tracks. Oh, what have we got over here, Mike?
Look at that. Oh, wow. In the fine sand, you can really see the mouse tracks. Usually they just leave an indistinct drag mark in the sand, but this you can see each individual foot, sometimes even the toe marks here.
Perfect. Excellent. Tracking. It's a lot of fun. This is my friend Mike Sullivan, biologist and a skilled tracker. We're just following this trail of deer mouse prints. Where do you think he's off to here, Mike?
Now let's follow him and see where it goes.
Okay. Deer mouse is not quite an ungulate yet, but it's getting there. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, this is good. These river bars or edges of lakes are great places to track. What you can tell here is this is an ungulate track, an animal like a coyote or a wolf. You can see the pad of the foot and toe marks. Here we're not seeing any pads. All we're seeing are the toe marks.
The hooves.
Yeah, the ungulate, the ungi. This is a fairly big track. It means it's a big ungulate. That's around here. That's a moose or an elk.
Mm-hmm.
The shape says to me that this is probably an elk. Moose would be much more pointed. Also, moose, they're those the stilt walking or wading animals, right? And they lift their feet up. This animal has been dragging its foot as it walks, so it's probably an elk.
Right.
It's dragging its foot. It's walking kind of slow. It's walking kind of slow that way, and it's walking kind of slow that way not very long ago. This is really fine stuff.
Oh yeah, this would blow out in no time if the wind came up.
Wind would have washed this out, any rain or snow. So this is these are really fresh tracks.
Well, let's see which way it was going.
Good idea.
All right. Remember to drag your toes, Mike. Fit in with the wildlife.
The Vu Cang ox remained scientifically undiscovered in Vietnamese forests until 1992.
So tracking has a lot to do with imagination too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's about 1 part skill and 9 parts imagination. It's like trying to solve a mystery.
Ooh, speaking of mystery, look at this, look at this.
This is great. Yeah, this is a classic.
Oh man, what a find.
Piece of track in here. You can tell that this is probably coyote droppings because a wolf dropping, wolves are big animals, big droppings. The smaller predators like weasels or martens would have very small droppings. Coyote droppings are about the size of the droppings you see from a small dog. And the coyote had eaten some sort of ungulate here. Some sort of ungulate. It's we see the hair. It's fairly short hair. I'd say it's deer. We know it's ungulate because ungulates have hollow hair. That's how they keep warm. It's like
sure.
The hollow parts in your jacket, a down-filled jacket. It traps a lot of air, keeps you warm. Same with ungulate hair. It's hollow. The tracks coming in from the sides are bird tracks. So a bird has come by and scattered the dropping, scattered the scat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's why they call it scat, probably.
I suppose.
Oh yeah.
Looks like a raven, fairly large bird.
Huge bird, yeah.
And this is just coming up near the end of winter. A lot of the spring migrant birds haven't come up yet, so it's probably a raven. Now coyotes aren't that big, and they probably wouldn't feed on deer in that a wolf would.
Sure, yeah.
They can't kill one, so this deer likely died of natural causes, maybe old age, starvation in the wintertime. There's roads nearby. It might have been clipped on a road and died in the bush somewhere. That's the neat thing about tracking is you have to try to put a story together with the little clues you find in the forest.
This is not a very pleasant story, though.
Pleasant for the coyote.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
You know?
Yeah.
Put on a little weight, maybe has a few more puppies this spring. It's a very pleasant story for the coyote. It's just part of the circle of life.
Why do they eat so much hair when they're eating? Just.
Well, they can't pluck it. You know?
Oh, I guess so. You just chew your way through that deer.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep, those are sheep. Big orange sheep, mountain sheep, wild sheep. One's up on the hillside, pawing the ground, licking at the dirt, getting minerals. Those are the ewes, the females. I don't know why they call them ewes. These ones over here, bigger horns, they're the rams, the males. Big horns, they like to ram them together in the fall. It's kind of a contest thing that they do. That's why they call them rams. You know, it's funny. Some people, they see an animal like this, they feel kind of warm and fuzzy about it. They think about Bambi and cuteness. And I gotta admit, I feel a bit of that myself. On the other hand, you see a magnificent ram like this, or an impressive stag, a bull surveying the domain. Makes you feel kind of close to the wilderness. It's very impressive. A sense of majesty floods over your being. It's humbling, kind of nice.
In winter, bison and moose may suffer from heat stress on warm days, but they never have trouble with the cold. The moose is the biggest member of the deer family, and it's also the weirdest member of the deer family. This is a nifty little happenstance here. Nice cow moose with a calf moose, and there's a bull moose in behind. Howdy, cow, how are you? The moose has, it's weird because it has this big muscular prehensile schnoz instead of a nice little dainty deer nose that it uses to bust off twigs and things like that. The diet of the moose is also peculiar for a deer. It feeds on twigs and little branches in the wintertime. In the summer, it's a semi-aquatic animal that gets deep in marshy places and eats water plants. The moose is widely distributed in northern North America, and you can also find them in Europe and I believe parts of Asia as well. Very successful animal. Sweden, the moose capital of the world. You couldn't ask for a weirder critter, especially in the deer group. Nice brown eyes. It's got a twig on its face. The largest ungulate ever was Indricotherium, a huge hornless rhinoceros. It lived 25 million years ago and was as heavy as many Brontosaurus-type dinosaurs. Wildlife photography takes a steady hand, steady nerves. Camouflage helps as well. I like to mix my camouflage. This pattern works well in the Middle East. This one developed for Vietnam. These pants work really well in southern Florida. Confuses the animals. They can't see me at all. These are Wapiti. Some people call them elk, but it's best to call them Wapiti because the word elk really means moose. You know, the Latin name of moose is alces. Sounds a lot like elks. Same derivation. The Wapiti is the second largest member of the deer family, next to the moose. These are all primarily females. A big bull can weigh 600 kilograms. There's one that looks like about a year-old fawn in among them. They give birth in May to spotted fawns. They are absolutely magnificent animals, once almost extinct in this part of the world, reintroduced from Yellowstone in the States. Excuse me, I'm going to get another photograph.
Buffalo upon the land, bison out across the ground, big ones eating grass, buffalo roaming around, mule deer deep in the trees, wapiti scent on the breeze, white tails all around. There's deer out upon the land. Fall and the time for the fight. Antlers crash into the night. Horns and dust and snot. You're giving it all that you got. Winter when things get cold, it's hard on the sick and the old. Tough ones, they eat dead plants. The others wind up feeding the ants. Spring and here come the fawns, calves and the little baby ones. Time for the mums and the babes to watch out for the coyotes and the thieves. Moose in the forest at dawn. Moose is here, then it's gone. Moose is a big brown thing, mean as a bear in the spring. Buffalo upon the land, bison out across the ground, big ones they're eating grass, buffalo roaming around, roaming around.
So we're up in the high country in Jasper, and these openings, these clearings in the forest are good places for caribou. And around here we've seen lots of caribou tracks, caribou droppings, the feeding craters from caribou. We've seen the lichens that they eat. I mean, you wouldn't think this would be much for food. It just looks like hair hanging in the trees, but they do eat these lichens. But we haven't seen the caribou. There are 12 species of wild ungulates in North America. We've seen 6, that's half. So we're not doing too bad. If we can find caribou, that'll make 7. So let's have a look around here and see how we do. Oh, the caribou have big wide feet so they can float on top of the snow. Quite unlike a moose, which just punches right through the snow and, you know, wades through the snow that way, breaking its kneecaps. Oh! Man, maybe we don't have to find a caribou. 6 is good enough, don't you think?
There are 12 species of ungulates in North America today, but during the Ice Ages, with more food and fewer hunters, there were at least 47.
Hey, Mike, I could have swore I heard a moose in here.
Isn't this neat?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I found this moose antler just back in the bush there. These are really neat things. Most ungulates grow antlers in the fall time.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they're used for part of their mating season. And then the antlers fall off naturally. They're shed in late winter. When they're first growing in the late summer, early fall, they have a soft tissue covering them. You know,
Oh yeah, the velvet.
yeah, that's right. The
Yeah,
velvet.
right.
And by the time the mating season rolls around, it gets really itchy. So they come to trees like this and they rub their antler against the tree to scratch that velvet off.
Makes a great sound too.
It does. Bull moose are really attracted to that sound. If you would rub an antler like that in the fall time, other moose would come around. That's the idea. They try to get other males around trying to defend the cow, things like that.
Right, yeah, all that dominance and male competition stuff.
Here you go.
Yeah, yeah.
They also have scent glands around the base of the antler. They rub that on the tree, makes the antler rubbing site really smelly, stinky.
Excellent. There's a lot of moose sign around here, isn't there?
Oh yeah, this is a really good spot to see moose sign. We have the rubbing on the trees, we have the twigs being eaten. Moose eat about 50 pounds of these twigs a day. They have to get a lot of them.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's amazing. So a lot of the twigs near the ground have been browsed off. So moose will try to get twigs near the tops of the trees. To do that, they have to walk up to trees and just walk right over them, and the trees bend over, right? And then they can get to the tops of the trees. In the winter time, the trees can be frozen and they'll snap off, they'll break. So you can see broken trees around in the forest where the moose have been browsing on the treetops.
No, so they just changed the face of the forest completely.
Oh yeah,
didn't they?
where moose have been, it can really leave a mark on the landscape.
Unbelievable. Well, there you have it. All the stuff that male ungulates are up to in the woods when you're not looking.
All ungulates are descended from Undaloofs, a group of small plant-eating mammals that first appeared just as the dinosaurs were going extinct. Go figure, the sound of a wapiti on a mountain breeze. It's kind of fun making animal calls, but you know, you really shouldn't do it when the animals are around you. It really confuses them. It can cause them to waste time and energy when they could be attending to more important business. Well, I've had a great time looking for wild ungulates. We found half the species in North America, got to travel through some beautiful country. I'd call it a success. So, until next time, I'm a nature nut, and I hope you are too. Bye for now. Same time each and every week, uncensored and uncut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut.